What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome everyone to Shifting Lanes Garage. My name is Chad. Today I am solo and my phone has the stream on it, which is a great start. And the audio. So, hey, how's everybody doing? Doug, Mike, Anthony, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, guys. Everyone in chat, how you guys doing? Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about a bunch of pretty cool things. Number one, as you saw from the title and thumbnail, we're going to be talking about what makes up a great apocalypse/zombie apocalypse car, what you think is a good car for it, and we're just going to run with that. I feel that's courtesy of Anthony, one of our supporters. He posted that in our supporter group. It's a great topic, so we're going to dive into that. And depending on time, also we've been having some success with some pretty crazy engine videos. So we might go into that depending on how everything goes. Doug was late, so was I. Don't worry about it. Working on his neighbor's apocalypse lever gun. And Sean replied with, "I have an unhealthy obsession for lever guns." There's no such thing. They're arguably, if I was to get a rifle, that's what I would get. The Echo. Yeah, the Echo was thanks to I tried to track things on two monitors and my phone, juggling many things. Hopefully it's gone. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and actually, we're live on TikTok at the moment. So if you're watching over there, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And let's see here. Michael goes, "Oh man, any multi-fuel military truck would be perfect for being able to get around in." Yeah, that's part of what I was what I was thinking along those lines. Basically, anything that can run on multiple fuels is probably what you're going to want to go. Something that can run probably on alcohol is probably a good one, just because, let's face it, you can a lot of people down south making that fuel right now, if you kind of catch my meaning. So welcome everyone, and just thanks for hanging out. Let's see here. Michael, it's your favorite reject. Anthony's having tech issues. He might not be able to watch on the TV. He's going to be watching on, might have to watch on the phone. The horror. But I appreciate the effort you go through to make the viewing. It makes me feel a little. What's the best way to describe it? It's interesting that I watch all my favorite content creators on TV, on my TV. So it's kind of cool to hear someone doing that with content I make. It's pretty it's insane to think about for me. Sean, as wild as it sounds, a steam engine would probably be perfect. I'm willing to explain my madness if needed. So I guess that now is better than any, since we're rolling right in there with it. When Anthony posed this, first I misread it. I thought he said zombie apocalypse. It's just his actual thing was apocalypse / getaway or go bag type car. But I guess we're going to try to break it down and what are you looking for in something like that? What vehicles present that, and what would make it? This is actually something I've mentioned before, or I've been thinking about. Because if you watch a stream, I would listen to the Unsubscribed podcast. And they used to do a feature on where they would ask their guests, what's the best, what would be the best option for, the apocalypse, as far as a firearm and stuff. But we don't do firearm content. We do car content. So I figured we'd get that into, or make it more about cars with that. So jumping right in, where my head originally went with all of this is Number one, you got to have something that's tough, reliable. You're actually probably going to want something that's a little bit older, just because of simplicity. Because let's face it, if it were in the apocalypse, your ability to tune any sort of electrical stuff isn't going to be readily available, if available at all. So you're going to want something that's either easy to work on or easy to fix, preferably both. Say you have to fix a control arm or something like that, or say you have a spring break, you're probably going to want something leaning more towards like leaf springs than coils, just because coil springs, again, not that leaf springs are everywhere, but you're probably going to be able to, at the very least, fashion something to make it work. And then, like I said, fuel is a big one. I think here, Michael goes in chat, don't waste the alcohol. We need that to forget about the apocalypse temporarily. Yes, but just think of it. If we're using it as, if it's a fuel source, everyone's going to kind of be making it. And, again, it's something you can make. It's renewable. Yeah, let's face it, if we're in the apocalypse, it's not going to be like there's going to be cars everywhere. So we might as well, stills are going to, the ability to, from stills and things like that are, or to make from like, basically, if you can make moonshine, you can make fuel for the cars. It's just making sure they're like retrofitted so you're not eating through fuel lines. That's a big thing with even E85 right now is if you don't have the right lines and things like that, it'll just eat right through them. So, but that's initially where my head. Let's see here. Someone had a good point. Like I said, Sean said, he said Steam. That's another thought where I went, is that, again, if you have the ability to, say, make a still, you theoretically have the ability to make a steam pot. And all you have to need then is fire and water, which theoretically should be relatively available. The thing is there's not a lot of steam engines out there, if that makes any sense. Unless, of course, you somehow fashion some form of generator and you have like make it into the future is electric, maybe? I don't... It seems like a bad idea in my book, but we're going to go there. Doug agrees with Sean. He goes, Steam, that's some good thinking. Yeah, because Steam is a simpler than internal combustion, right? You don't have to worry about getting, you don't have to worry about air, fuel, spark, bang, right? Hundreds of thousands of time, a second. Let's see here. Anthony goes, I'm just going to choose 12 valve Cummins, but a manual instead of the auto. Here's the... even in the apocalypse, we need a third pedal. But that said, I mean, there might be something to a manual in that type of situation. Again, it's a simpler design. You don't need a computer or something controlling it when you're driving, right? Just like you would want probably manual four-wheel drive as opposed to something that's all-wheel drive. Although some all-wheel drive systems are pretty simple, like the center viscous clutch in like a Chevy Astrovan would probably that's a pretty dumb all-wheel drive system that just works. But again, now we're talking about clutches and things like wear items and things like that. Like where do you go? Where do you go for clutch material in the apocalypse? Like it's an interesting thought, because again, you want something that's simplicity. Like diesel engines is another part where I went was because again, you can make quote unquote biodiesel, whether it be used cooking oil or stuff like that. But again, you still have. When I started thinking that's when I went back to alcohol, and it's a little easier to make bioethanol, so to speak, or distill alcohol than it is to make a biodiesel or something like that. I mean, not for nothing. If we're thinking about this, then we just need to if we're not pulling it out of the earth and refining it, the refineries are going to have a finite supply. So early on, those are going to be the most valuable. Gas stations on a local, but on a grander scale, oil refineries are going to become points of interest, points of power, even, because let's face it, if you need fuel for vehicles, that's where it is. Let's see here. And Anthony goes on for the first few reasons: the fuel, the bastard run on just about any other type of oil, including salvage used engine oil, hydraulic fluid, ATF, etc. Yeah, I mean, let me put it to you this way: you have that or a gas engine, it's going to be a little more versatile than a gas engine. And let's see here. Third is parts available for the engine. I would not be limited to other trucks. An old generator or a piece of construction equipment might have 12 valves sitting in it, patiently waiting to donate spare parts. Even if I run out of fuel and I'm nowhere close, I can drain about a third of my crankcase oil and have a gallon move and hunt for more fuel. Yeah, I think we're all kind of getting into the same spot, the same type of agreement, that gas power is probably the worst power, just because of the specificity of the type of fuel. Like I said, we could get that, you could convert it. And again, this is where older engines come into play, right? Ethanol as a fuel, as we currently sit, E85, right? You need 30% more volume than regular gasoline for, say, a similar bang. That's why a lot of tuners love them, is because you're pouring more fuel. It pulls more heat. You can add more ignition timing, a little more cylinder head pressure, that sort of stuff to get more power out of them. But again, if we're just using a regular fuel injected car, or even a modern DFI setup, there's a computer controlling the fuel, and if you just put a different, say, ethanol in, it's going to end up running lean. And obviously that's not good for the longevity of your engine. Even though modern engines now are running leaner and leaner every day, modern piston design, especially in a performance / getting into almost every day. But for example, like the twin turbo V8 that you see in like the Panamera, the Bentley Continental, all those twin turbo V8s, Volkswagen cars. What is it? The Audi QX something or other. Name escapes me at the moment. Those cylinders are ridiculously well built, ridiculously tough, because they're designed to withstand the heat of running leaner than what conventional wisdom would say, and things like that. So you're continuing through chat. Doug goes, you would start with a basic machine shop and you can make steam engine from scratch. Exactly. Show of hands, how many people have that? Well, this might not be the best focus group to ask that question, but that level of machine. Now, again, you don't necessarily need to. It's not a complicated thing to make, but it is a thing. Let's see here. Sean goes, go to NASA, JPL, and heist the RTG or two. Let's see here. Anthony, wait, hold on. Sean goes, also, the ethanol and gas screws the gas up after a while. Well, ethanol is, and I forget the scientific term. I think it's hygroscopic. Don't quote me on that. If you have a chemistry or whatever exam tomorrow, don't use this as your source. But I know ethanol likes to pull water. It attracts water molecules. So if it sits around for forever, you're going to end up with water in your gas. And obviously, that's no bueno. I look at it from a standpoint of is if you have a basic knowledge of how to make and build things, you can build a still. And then you just need starch, whether it be corn, wheat, rye, pick something that you ferment and then boil off and then condense, and there you have it. That sort of thing. Sean, as far as the RTG thing goes, you can figure out a way to regulate the power from it without a computer. You can absolutely power electric motors from one. I see hit that. You know, it's one of those things where we talk about it now from a, hybrids, extended range hybrids, all this stuff is about that's about extracting the most amount of kinetic energy out of the drop of gasoline that you have. So gasoline has a certain potential energy in it. We explode it, we run it through an internal combustion engine, run it through a crank, into a transmission, into a final gear ratio, and it propels our car forward. The problem is if you take the efficiency from potential to actual, potential energy into kinetic energy as far as movement going forward, the best engines in the world are only 50%. So for every gallon of fuel you have, 50% is effectively being turned into nothing more than heat, or is energy lost. So if you could then sit here and say, okay, I have a fuel, now I can run it through a generator, and whatever's not being used, I store, and then I use up in whatever the situation is. Now maybe we're getting to 60, 70, 80%, and now that gallon of fuel is equating to more movement. And let's face it, as much as I'd like to sit here and tell you that it's like, forget it, I'm getting into Pagani Zonda and I'm going to be faster than anyone, the ability to move in these, let's just use a normal apocalypse situation. Your ability to move and branch out and resources and things like that is way more important than outright speed. Like I said, so that's why I sit here and say if you go to like an old Carby engine, you really, obviously you need the different jets and things like that, but you can tune it with a screwdriver as opposed to needing a laptop, which, again, assuming that electrical power isn't abundant, and your battery, you might not have much time on a laptop, if any at all, really. The ability to mechanically adjust things is going to be very, very important. Anthony goes, oh yeah, good point, Sean. Within the first couple years, whatever gasoline is lying around is fucking gone. Diesel can sit for years and burn when it's squeezed hard enough. There we go. I think gasoline's the worst fuel. I mean, it's obviously something to be used, but diesel would be my first choice in whatever capacity. And that goes back to, I forget who said it. I think it was Michael early on in the stream. And the train of thought just disappeared. Where are we sitting here? Now I gotta find it. Let's see here. That's what Michael mentioned, like those old military vehicles, those old Humvees that can run on gas, diesel, alcohol, nail polish remover, whatever. They're basically just a blown up side by side that you don't want to drive much faster than 50 miles an hour. But your ability to run on just about anything is huge. Doug goes, I have a series of books on how to make a machine shop. A series of books. I feel like that would be like a 10-page thing. 1, space, 2, tools, 3, make the bits. Obviously. Oversimplification there. But just bear in mind, RTG is in danger rocks inside. Do not open and munch on the contents. I think short school bus isn't a bad idea, even in a Zuzu MPR box truck. Again, it's one of those things where, number one, availability, right? Like, if you need to go somewhere immediately, or get somewhere, or flee somewhere immediately, you're going to take what you can get. If you have a little more time, you can have a little more foresight, and it's like, where's the vehicle? Okay, there's but that's a diesel over there. I'll grab that. And then if you have more time, you can start to think, blah, blah, blah. But it's really like most things in life. What do you need? Where are you going? And what's available? And if you don't have much available, you really can't be picky. It's okay. This thing runs. Let's go. Anthony goes, Killdozer / Thread. Sean goes, an F-135 Army truck. Let me put it to you this way. I got a feeling in those types of situations, those vehicles aren't going to be overly abundant. So let's just let's just walk us through is how did we get specifically to this apocalypse type situation. And that is, okay, if it was some sort of like World War III type of a thing, right? Chances are a lot of military vehicles are going to be occupied elsewhere and or ridiculously defended. Now, not to say that there are places that take old military vehicles, old Humvees, old, 5 tons, deuce and a halves, all that sort of stuff, and retrofit them for, public use and everything. So, but that's not, we're not talking any sort of significant or massive volume, right? Let's see here. Sean goes, a Humvee is pretty easy to steal as long as you're not about to steal it from the E4 Mafia. I mean, there's no key. It's literally just on. But from what I understand, you got to be careful because it's very easy to leave the lights on and drain the battery. That's another point of it's like there's such a deep that's why this is such a great topic. Thank you, Anthony, again. Give Anthony a hand for coming up with this conversation. And that is, car batteries. If we're in apocalypse, nobody's really going to be making those anymore. What happened? Stockpiling that might be a long play, but even so, batteries go bad. Like, where do you get the power from? Do you then have like let's just say you constantly walk around with a jump pack that you keep in your community and it's charged by the windmill, right? Like you have a windmill generator in that pack and that's what starts all the cars. All the way down to simple stuff like, think of how, not necessarily complicated, but how many of you are going to go out there from raw material and make an alternator, spark plugs? That goes back to like Anthony's point about diesel. It's where you don't need a spark plug in a diesel. It's all compression based. But on the flip side to that, if you live up north, how are you going to heat the block? Like diesel gelling is becomes an issue. All this other, there's so many things. So like obviously for simple fact that heat and all that other sort of stuff, you're going to see a migration of some kind south just because it's warmer. Things like that. Andrew Kaiser is over on Facebook. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the show. Sean goes, I wouldn't take an active military vehicle because it's only barely being maintained in a 1990s Chevy from a West Virginia meth head. I think the biggest thing here is that the KISS method should be applied at all times. Keep it simple. Older is better as long as it's, for the most part, again, it comes down to a lot of the availability. If you just happen to be next, junkyards, for example, I don't know what I'm going to need, but take it all. Sean goes, keep some hot coals to shovel under your oil-burning truck if it's cold. True. Or you just migrate south. And I like to think of our chat and our community as being pretty self-sufficient and smart and relatively good group to be around if should the apocalypse happen. But once again, think of how dumb the average person is and then realize half the population's dumber. So, Doug goes, everyone come to Franzburg, a.k.a. Louisbury, Pennsylvania. Not for nothing. You're one of the first calls because if that's an option. But you have you're you're uniquely well suited, Doug, to weather this, so to speak. Just because where you live, what you have, you're on a farm. There's an abundance of vehicles there that we'll just say, artfully collected over the years, and you could probably cobble a bunch of pretty good, reliable vehicles out of that, or the machine shop you mentioned before. Uh, anyway, Sean Ford over on Facebook. Step one. Step one, acquire a running vehicle. Doesn't matter what. Then get to a position to acquire better equipment once you're in a better spot. So what you're saying is it's exactly like the video games. You start at level 1, and then you just keep gaining XP until you have better equipment and better stash, that sort of stuff. I mean, here's the bottom line. I think most of the individuals involved are going to be limited by... Yeah, it's like any sort of herd mentality, right? They're only as strong as their weakest member, so you can only move as fast as your slowest member. That's sort of a thing. Let's see here. Radio. Doug goes, radio, my friend. I'm on the air. KC3STX. Oh God, what? Right. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of the setups, and it's pretty insane. But yeah, like, we're gonna basically, in an apocalypse type situation, we're gonna effectively be sent back to like probably pre any world war, as far as technological ability, right? Like, we have become, so much of our industry is based on the ability to produce power, anything with a computer in it. Like, I mean, all that stuff's become so important, as far as design, automation, robots in the manufacturing process, like CNC stuff, right? As far as from the machining standpoint and things like that, to where our ability to create is, like I said, going to go back probably at least 100 years minimum. And tribe forming. Anthony goes, yes, communication. Your vehicle needs room for equipment. All things to consider. CB radios become as valuable in that situation as these are to everyone else. Sean goes, I have big advantage terrain that protects me. That protects me. The farmhouse can be abandoned, and I can retreat into my mountains and hidden even more than I already am. I mean, where you are, you're gonna start to see, kind of, what's the best way to describe this? You're gonna see populace grow around resource, whether that be a river, because fresh moving water, kind of a big deal. And then you can turn water again into power pretty easily. Again, I'm not saying that we need to power an entire city, but hydroelectric power is some of the easiest to. Excuse me. Hydroelectric power is some of the easiest for the common man to build and maintain and things of that nature. Sean continues, what I'm getting from this is we all need to unify and rule what's left of the world. We all seem to be on the same page, just have similar skill sets or skills that work well together. And then Anthony goes, tribe forming. Yes, I didn't, on the list of things that I thought that this would go, the Shifting Lanes Garage prepper commune. But it's good good to know I know all you guys because I have a decent skill set, but we'd be in pretty good hands with this group, I think. Greg's a little bougie, so he might whine a little bit, but we'll get that out of him early on. Greg is actually not with us, obviously. Tonight, his job is being a job, not a very good one. And so he's stuck with that. He said he'd try to pop in the chat if he could. So if you see him, whatever the... Say hello. Sean goes, I mean, anyone coming into my land that's not supposed to be there will be growing plants above them. Probably. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard something more West Virginian in my entire life. Just saying. That said, slightly off topic, but decent story. So as some of you may or may not know, one of my previous jobs was I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and part of that job, you would think, well, number one, most people look at a rental car and it's like, oh, you worked at an airport or you worked at some resort or something. The vast majority of the rental car industry is in vehicle replacement. You hit a deer, car goes into the shop, rental car, your insurance pays a rental car agency for you to have a vehicle while your car's being fixed. Same thing if your car's getting worked on at a dealership, all that other sort of stuff. So much so that with the branches I worked at, save for the airports, or airport, I only worked at one, but save for the airport was like 85 to 95% vehicle replacement. Very small sliver was actually retail business. But let's see here. Mazda has a racing wing. I completely lost where I was going with that. Sorry, I'm still getting over the flu chat. So the brain isn't working what it once was. Oh, right. I knew where I was going with this. So when I was working relatively close to my hometown, one of the parts of the job, someone's got a car. They've had it for a few weeks. Let's say the insurance company stopped paying for it, the dealership, whoever. It's on the customer to pay for it or return the car. If they don't, and this was one of the weirder things about working at Enterprise, is that we would go and get the car, which I always thought there should be a separate department for that, because you don't know what you're getting into. Case and point. Two of the best stories to this. Number one, we were going to get a car and we were getting it out of, I want to say Hawthorne or Patterson, but we were on our way home after getting this truck back. And we heard a loud bang. We get back to the branch and we notice there's a hole in the bed that wasn't there before. And that's very much roughly 9 millimeters in diameter, if you kind of catch my meaning. The other time is we were the complete opposite in a rural area. Person, I don't know what was going on, but we had to go get the car. And we get up, there's a dirt driveway. We go up it. You start to see these typical things. There's an old rusted out husk of something over there. There's an old rusted car over there, an old lawnmower. Okay, I'm starting to hear the banjos playing. Okay, this is kind of sketchy. And then there was a sign that basically said, then there was a no trespassing sign, and then there was another one, and then there was one that said, if you can read this, you're in range. And then underneath it, it's, no, I'm serious. And I turned to my boss at the time, and I'm like, car ain't worth it. Just straight up. This car ain't worth it. Anyone from corporate who wants to sit here and yell at me for not getting this car, they are welcome to get the police involved, because is that person Was that someone being funny? Was that someone who actually sits on their porch with a, you know, hunting rifle when they see people coming out of their I don't know, and it's a rental car, man. I ain't. Nope. I think we actually did end up either getting no, that car. I think what we ended up doing was, instead of trying to pick it up at the house, we had, and again, we were rental. I basically did day-to-day operations and corporate sales for my branch. You know, as I rose, obviously I had different day-to-day, but basically corporate sales was my wheelhouse. You know, what I did for more than one branch towards the end. And I'm not trained. You know, I know I am proficient with a firearm. I know I'm a halfway decent shot. I know how to operate multiple different types of firearms. But I'm not trained to go into a situation where you don't know, like, so we end up somehow, some way, we end up talking to this person's boss or what have you. We tell them the situation. They tell them, yeah, that so-and-so's a piece of work, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, okay. We're like, they end up sitting here saying, well, they're supposed to work on this date at this time. I'll call you if they do. I'll make sure they have a way of getting home. So we go into the parking lot. This person goes to work. They go out to wherever on a job or whatever. We swoop in, pick up the car. Tirade of abuse about 2 hours later on the phone. You can't do that. This is unlawful, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, we'll happily return you your car if... Actually, no. We're like, we can't do it. You owe us, I think it was like $3,500. They had the car for like 3 months without paying. It was a Jeep Liberty. Old Jeep Liberty with the rounded headlights. And... oh, they are pissed. Their significant other calls, tries to be sweet, like, oh yeah, but we just need to, we just need it for, can't do it. Let me see if I can find. I used to have the pictures of it, but actually I can do it this way. See here. Photos. It's in here somewhere. Huh. My photos, there we go. Sorry, I promise you. I may have... I'm starting. Huh. Let's see here. Aha! Here we go. If I saved all this stuff, but at any rate, so anyway, this was when we found the car, this was everything that was in it. So like literally only one person could occupy. And I don't know why all this stuff was in there. I don't know if they were getting kicked out of their house. I don't know what was happening. So the stupid thing, again, is for people like us, And like Anthony said it right. It's like, fuck that. That's a job for a repo man. I completely agree. But one of the things you have to understand, and I'll tell people this all the time. If you get a job offer from Enterprise and you need a job and you're looking to go into like sales or business management, that sort of stuff, and you want to learn how to run a business and you want to learn every little aspect of it, taking ownership of it, all that other sort of stuff, Enterprise is one of the best companies to work for. Full stop. In that they will give you an incredibly good, they will train you very, very well. And you will have a very good knowledge base. So if you spend about a year working there, you will know how to run your own business. If you have a good head on your shoulders and you're willing to, work. The downside is it's a meat grinder. You work insane hours in a suit and tie and dress shoes. And it doesn't sound like a physical job, but when you're constantly in and out, cleaning cars, doing all that, it's, I would say, tertiary physical. Like you think of like a construction worker or anything, that's very hands-on physical. But this is just physical because you're not wearing comfortable shoes. You're not wearing comfortable clothes. You're in all that other sort of stuff. And it is, I don't want to say fairly, if you do the right thing, you will advance. But you will start to plateau. And then they start to get on you about your plateauing. Like there's the same number of district managers as there are or branch managers. Like, no, there's 4%, one district manager for every like 6 to 10 stores. Do the math. It gets very, very stressful very, very quick. But if you want to learn how to do a business and run a business and manage a business, learn how to be a salesperson, learn how to communicate with people professionally and as a business person, I tell people all the time, give it a year. If you're not making what you want to make in that year's time, or that it's not going to happen in the second year, start looking for something else. But again, we had to take all this crap out. And like, that's some of it. I don't know what the bottles are. This is going on 15 years ago, just in case anybody was wondering. But it's absolutely... Oh. And that's when we met Christian von Koenigsegg. Just figured I'd throw that in there. I know you guys have seen that before, but... Alright, let's see here, Sean. Mark Anthony, don't say it. That looks like, honestly, a bunch of stolen luggage. It does, like this picture, right? It's all in like those vacuum bags, right? I don't know, man. Like it was, it was one of those things where it's like I'm pissed that I had to do it. I was not thrilled. What's the word? It's one of those things where like this wasn't really what I interviewed for, kind of a thing, and now I'm sitting here trudging through some obviously messy, slightly unhinged person's crap, and I don't want. And my first thought was, it's like, just given the way this whole thing went down, was, oh great, my fingerprints are going to be on the People's Exhibit A in whatever trial this person's running from. So, but yeah, that was, it was a fun, interesting experience. And there were parts of it that I liked. Whoops. There were parts of it that I liked, and there were parts of it that were like, eh. I'm definitely happy to not be doing that anymore. There's absolutely no way I could do. We were doing shifting. It's actually might be like 10, 11 years ago, because we were just in the very infancy of Shifting Lanes, the website at that time. So it's like 11, 12 years ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. But there was no way I would be able to do Shifting Lanes as it currently sits, whether it be Garage or any of that, working for them. Because again, it was minimum of 50 hours, maximum of, when you were on salary with them, forget it. It was like 60 to 70 hours. That said, the most the time I enjoyed the most there was working at the airport. You'd think it'd be hectic and crazy and all this other stuff, but there was always something going on. But it was very well structured and it was a routine, and it was a 4-day work week. Granted, it was I think technically it was a 14-hour workday, something to that effect. But I worked 4 days a week, so I'd have 3 days off every week. It was pretty awesome. But for whatever reason, the way Enterprise did it was they had a constant rotation of their like quote unquote rising stars. So someone who was about to get promoted would go work at the airport for 6 months so they could understand how to manage their time, because it is pretty fast paced. And being able to do everything at that accelerated pace when you go to we're talking thousands of cars, almost a little over 1,800, I think it was. Anyway, not important. But compare and contrast to your average local branch is somewhere between 70 and 150. If you can manage that many cars, that fleet should be easy peasy. But it was, and like everybody they knew why they were there. They were motivated, and it was a good place to work. There was significantly less backstabbing when I worked there than on the branch level, especially towards the end. That was a mess. But at any rate, Steve V is back. What did you miss? We chose the perfect Apocalypse car for you, Steve, but it's going to be a surprise, so sorry. No, we talked about Apocalypse car, and then that led me down a previous job rant, or some mountain dude who might have taken Red Dead block laying in the yard, just keeps his whole life in his car. That's what I think it was. It's either that or they were running from something. Doug goes, being in the retail auto industry, I used to have to rent cars all the time to do dealer trades. There were some great agents at Enterprise I would seek out by name whenever I could, because there are also some people that felt like college grads, but their degree was underwater basket weaving. You joke, but at one point, my branch, which was local to me here, that I worked at, I had a liberal arts, a person with a liberal arts degree. I had someone with a degree in, I had someone with a degree in engineering, but wanted to learn how to learn sales or something. You get a lot of the people who are like communications, liberal arts, a lot of people who go into like languages. And what I mean by that, well, not even languages, but like literature. Because the fuck you gonna do with an English degree or a fine arts degree? Because guess what? Those jobs, there's not a lot of them. And the ones that you can get early on pay nothing. So people like that would end up working for me. Actually, myself and like one other person in like the 6 branches in my area at the time actually had a degree in business. And, my degree was business management, like all associates degrees. So business management, education, and general math. Because I wanted to be a teacher, but my dad's like, that's not going to be your primary degree, so go get something else. So I went business, which is, in hindsight, I actually learned more at Enterprise and running and then doing shifting lanes than I ever did out of a textbook from college. Learn by doing, and I feel, fortunately for me, I didn't spend money on college. Yay, athlete. Ask me why I limp. But I mean, I think most of you in chat think the same way, is that college ain't for everyone, and not for nothing. You can make more money faster and learn more going into a trade than you'll ever do going into a college, right? If you go to a trade school, you're going to learn how to be a plumber. If you become an electricalist apprentice, sorry guys, if you become you're going to learn how to be an apprentice, but you're also going to learn the business side of it, right? There's a lot to learn in the trades, and again, you could spend 2 to 4 years being an apprentice somewhere and then start to make real money and have a skill that, let's face it, if you're an electrician, if you're a plumber, if you're a contractor, if you're all these things, regardless of gas car, electric car, solar power, nuclear power, coal power, all this stuff. Regardless of that, you're still going to need electricians. We're still going to need plumbers. We're still going to need people to build shit. Like, it's built in job security. So, Steve goes, Chad, control your ADHD. What's the post-apocalyptic vehicle you chose for me? Honda CRV. Anthony goes, Steve, a Tesla Model X. Michael, Steve, we're car guys. It happens. Michael goes, I learned more doing construction and driving CDL rated trucks than in school. Here's in my opinion, now if you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be an engineer of some assortment, if you're going to be someone who's going to be like a programmer, or you're going to be doing a highly specialized field, interesting, you're going to college, law for an example, all this stuff, right? To me, anything else, college is just basically you proving to some future employer that you have a base of knowledge, and that you have the ability to be self-sufficient, or you have the ability to accomplish tasks without mommy and daddy, kind of making your bed for you, so to speak. And that's about it. And not for nothing, college is way, for what it is and what you're getting, it's way too expensive. Because what does every job want nowadays? They want experience. Well, unless you were smart with your internships or your summer jobs, you don't have any experience. You're just, right? So now let me put it this way. If you know what you want to be, if you know what you want to do, or if your kid knows what they want to do, or they're very, very passionate about something, then yeah, college is right. But quick question to everyone watching on any of the platforms that we're on tonight. Are you working in the industry right now that you wanted to, or that you thought you would, or that you basically at 18 years old when you graduated high school and you said, I want to go to college for this, or I want to be this? Are you that? Because I'll make a bet that's like maybe 1-2% of the population. Of all of my friends, about 3 of them are doing, I want to be this, or some variation of this, the day they graduated high school, and they're actually doing something. One of my buddies working in law enforcement, one of my buddies worked in music, and one of my other buddies worked basically post-production for TV and movies. Every other one of my friends that I grew up with is doing something else, something different, that they either had to go back to school to learn, or that they just sort of picked up at their first or second job and said, I like this more. So, Steve goes, I'll accept the CRV if you get rid of the CVT. Well, then you have a 1-speed transmission. Michael goes, a B20 CRV all-wheel drive. Could work. Sean goes, I've learned the most from friends and being backed into corners and having to work myself out of them. I think that goes for the vast, well, maybe not to the hyper specificity of your situation, but it goes to a lot of people, is that you learn something, you kind of like doing it. You want to learn more. Okay, I didn't like that. Or, well, shit, I have to work. I have to do this. I don't want to have to do this again. So how do I avoid that? Or what do I have to do to make myself in a situation to where I don't have to work the job I hate or in the field I hate? Because I'll tell you right now, if you talk to 18-year-old me, getting ready to go to college, the top 3 things on my mind were baseball, girls, and what I thought I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. I wanted to be either, well, in high school, I was still holding out on to the professional athlete dream. If that didn't work, I was going to be a coach, or at the very least, I was going to own my own sporting goods store or something thereabouts, or a sporting goods store / private instruction, that sort of a thing. And I actually did do private instruction for a minute. But if you had sat there and told me that the overwhelming majority of my adult life would have been spent in the golf industry, I would have laughed at you. Because I didn't pick up a golf club until the day I graduated high school. And I didn't really start taking it seriously until I was in my 20s. Mid-20s. So, and also if you told me in high school I was going to be making, well, first of all, we didn't really know what YouTube was, right? There wasn't really a thing back then. But if you were going to sit here and tell me that there was going to be something where I was going to be sitting in front of people and talking, whether it be digitally or not, and creating videos and things like that for people to actually consume and watch and things of that nature, I'd have laughed at you. Because I was very... shy's not the right word, but I did not like public speaking. Not at all. Number one, like, I was just... I'm very... What's the word? I overthink pretty much everything. If you can't tell, sometimes it's just like... I wish there was a way I could just press a button and you could get the loading circle that you get on like Windows or something. Because when I'm thinking about something and it's just the loading screen of me like playing, okay, this is how I should, that sort of stuff. Again, working in sales and again, working at a place like Enterprise really helped with that. Really helped me just talk to people, explain to people, communicate, that sort of stuff. That's why I always tell people, if you're looking for a good job to prepare you for life, at a college or something, or even you're not going to really, nobody's going to really take you seriously, but get into a profession where you have to sit, whether it be sales or something where you have to talk to people, because not for nothing, that's life. Being able to talk to someone, being able to, every time I get up on here and do one of these things, or I make a video, or I make a short, or Greg and I are out filming, I am selling, whether it be the video, I'm selling myself, I'm selling my car, I'm selling something interesting to everyone. And that ability to communicate clearly, concisely, etc. If I just sat here and was like, blah, 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 car, vroom, I mean, most people aren't going to watch it. Chad Free over on Chad Free, I don't know if that's 2 words or not, but also Chad, welcome. Baseball instructor, nice. Yeah, did it until, like, that's my range of motion in my shoulder right now. Like, I can't go vertical like that. That's how. Basically, in here, like my left knee, it's about as silky smooth as 2 pieces of 40 grit sandpaper on each other. If that makes any sense. Let's see here. Doug over on Facebook chat goes, when I was 25, I was in the Army National Guard and working a construction job running equipment. I was glad to realize that while I wasn't making a ton of money, I was living every little boy's dream. That's also true. There's a lot of pictures of me as a kid sitting on heavy machinery. That stuff was interesting. Here's the thing. If you find something you love, find a way to make it. Cars, right? I wasn't a mechanic. I wasn't that, but I found a way to make money on it. If you want to work somewhere, I get different stages of life, and let's face it, a lot of you have kids, and you can't just be like, well, I'll go over here and take this $38,000 a year job, and hopefully in 5 to 10 years I'll be making real money. Not that that isn't real money, but you know what I mean. Support a family type kind of money. So you don't have the time for that, but I'll put it to you this way. The most successful people I know are almost obsessive at either their craft or their hustle. So I've had friends who were working a job they hated, and while they were doing that, were working towards something else, and then eventually got to something else, and now they're loving it, right? My buddy who's a musician, that was it. But he was constantly practicing, working on his craft, all of that sort of stuff. Phenomenal musician, by the way. Phenomenal guitar player. To the point where we'd be hanging out in college, after college. We'd be hanging out at his parents' place or whatever, playing pool, and he'd be playing an acoustic guitar, and he was joking around, like but he would be playing almost the soundtrack to the given pool match that was going on or something if he wasn't playing or something like that. Like, it wasn't, yeah, he was trying to be funny, but he was working on something. Even when we were just hanging out, he was working on something. And I implore all of you to kind of do something like that. If you hate what you're doing, find what you love to do, figure out how to make money on it, and then work to that goal. I have multiple friends, and I'm by no means the last word. Greg's no by means the last word. But I have multiple friends who are looking into creating content, and I keep telling them, start now. Well, I don't know, but start now. And this goes to every profession. If you want something, start that. Start today. Start tomorrow. Start whatever. Start now. Because guess what? If you're not going to do it because it's going to take you years to build it, well, every year you wait is another year down the road. And then you might have a kid. You might get married. You might have to move. You might have to do this. You might have to do that. That just continues to derail it. And I'm not sitting here saying marriage or kids are a derailment in life. That said, I don't think I'll ever have kids. But just to bring it back to content, because it's kind of what I know and what I'm doing now, start today. Because guess what? If you do it for 3 months, you're going to know more in those 3 months than you do today. Do it for 6 months, you're going to know more. So it's like almost like a bell curve, or it's almost on a curve, right? So the process is like this, but you pick something up, and then as you learn how to acquire or where to go for information or who to talk to or whatever, your ability, and it kind of does this. We've been doing shifting lanes for 11 plus years. And we just recently we found our way, decided to move for whatever reasons. Case in point, the C30. Volvos were killing it. I'm sure that's where a lot of you came from. We're killing it. But doing the C30 and making content for the C30 was killing me. Even though it was successful. Even though if we were still doing builds with Volvos right now, our channel would be better than it is right now. It was killing me. So we've hit the reset button a couple times. You know, we were a website. Then we were a blog. Then we were on Drive Tribe. That was probably the best, financially, the best shifting lanes it's ever been. We're close to that again. But, and then Drive Tribe was like, wait a minute, we're paying people too much. And it was this. You know, all these different types of things. We landed on YouTube and stuff. And now with like the short forms kind of content, it's really, at least, and for me specifically, if you go and you watch a lot of my short form stuff, I would sit here and say Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok would be the best place because those is where I can give 90 seconds to a video as opposed to 60 on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, check them out. They're great. But the longer versions are on those other platforms. But 11 years to sort of find, okay, here's the content we create, and here's it resonating. You know, when we sit here and we look, that's a high. When you're doing something and you see people are enjoying it, and all like that, that's a high. So moral of the story is that I don't care who you are watching this. I don't care what you do in life right now, unless what you're doing in life right now is what you love. If you want to do something different or you love something else, learn how to do it and then figure out a plan to get there in 2 years, 3 years, 6 months, whatever. Because if I can do certain stuff, if I can figure certain stuff out, if I can put stuff to the grind, all that other sort of stuff, there's no reason any of you can't. Because I'm nothing special. So, let's see here. Steve, I am nowhere close to doing what I wanted to do as a career. Do you like it? If not, figure out how to get to something you like. I'm oversimplifying. It's not easy. It's hard. It requires a lot of hard work. But you're capable. And I'm sure you can figure something out. You know, if you start... One of the creators I watch, has a very simple saying. Doesn't matter how big, how small. Make today better than yesterday. Do something to make yourself better today than you were yesterday. Whether that be read something, learning something, applying for a new job, or applying for education to be able to go and do that job you want to do or what have you. Working towards something, starting a YouTube, whatever it is. Or it could just simply be, I didn't eat like a jackass today. I ate healthy today. I went to the gym today. I'm a little better today than I was yesterday. If you live by that mantra, in a few years, you'll look back and start to think, holy cow, things are pretty good. Sean goes, I went to college for mechanical engineering. That's what I went to college for the second time around. And industrial robotics. I've mostly worked retail and a few years as a first responder. I mean, it's I think those fields, so like I'll use mechanical engineering because I do have some first. I went for 2.5, we'll call, semesters towards that before life just cross-checked me into oblivion. But a lot of people, when they go into like mechanical engineering, they have a certain viewpoint. It's like, oh, I'm going to go design this. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be working on these machines. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. And the general reality is that you're going to end up going to working for somewhere. And let's use cars, for example. You're like, oh, I can't wait to design the next best chassis or engine or this. All that sort of stuff. What more than likely what you're going to end up on early on is the door latch mechanism for a crossover or a minivan or a mechanism for the mirror or something very minute and almost non-consequential, but has to be done for a car to be a car. You're not going to work on the glamorous stuff. And that some people, that's a tough pill to swallow. Or like, I can't imagine being people my age, because all we wanted to do would be teachers. And being an educator now. If you're a teacher now, hats off to you. God bless you. Because good grief, does that look exhausting and horrible and tiring. And, you get into it to educate children, and there's about this much educating and dealing and helping kids, and about that much just BS. God bless. Let's see here. Anthony goes, I knew I'd be in the tech sector somewhere. Never thought I'd work my way up to a military defense contractors, building circuit boards for space shuttles, helicopters, and FAA flight control rooms. But that was a thing, and it was cool. That's awesome, man. Awesome, you're doing something you wanted to do, and that you sound like you have a genuine passion for. Steve goes, I got pre-approval for a lower car payment from a Honda in the mail today. I'll be saving $125 a month if I signed up. Do you think it's a scam? You're not. There's no such thing as free money. Number one, I do like a better business search on the company and stuff, but they're not going to eat your debt on a vehicle. A lot of these things are scams, or they're legit, but they're going to give you another 60 months, and now they're going to, they're in the business to make money. So they're not going to buy out your debt and make less, if that makes any sense. The best way to save money on loans, and I understand the reason we get them is because we can't afford a certain amount, or there's so many different reasons to get a loan, business reasons, spreading out expenses, all that other whatever. But the best way to pay off debt is just, let me just put it to you this way: if your car payment's $200 a month, pay $210 or $250 if you can, or whatever you can manage, because in cars, just like in homes, the early days of the loan, you don't start paying off principal in any of these equity loans or home like type loans where you're financing a thing until like the last half. Or hey, it made me think of something. One of the buzzwords that have the highest CPMs on YouTube is financial advice. So, Steve, here, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate you, because here's this. Now, I'm by no means a financial advisor, but I can tell you that if you can pay a little bit more into a loan, do it. Just because, again, at the tail end, if you can make that, the quicker you can make the number that you're paying interest on smaller, the less you're going to pay in the long run. And anything, and I'll wrap that up with anything that's pre-approved in the mail, I generally don't trust, because not for nothing, who uses the mail anymore? And I'm also generally, only way I would sit here and say that if you can refinance is if you can get a lower interest rate, which, I guess they're kind of, sort of, maybe they're not, but interest rates are crazy right now. So good luck. Sean, I was a homeless, lazy bum when I was 18 because I was stupid, and it took me 5 years to realize my dad never said I was kicked out of the house. Sometimes we got to learn lessons the hard way. Sometimes we got to learn that, electricity hurts through trial and error and not mom saying no. Steve goes, Chad, keep up with the shorts. They've been really interesting and cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. I think I have found sort of my way with that sort of content, which is really, really, really cool. No, it's fun content to make. It's interesting stuff, as opposed to when we were doing news stuff or consumer advice stuff, and I wanted to not do that anymore. Let's see here. Steve again. I went to Lincoln Tech and worked for car dealerships. Killed my passion. That's the thing. It goes a lot of times. It's don't meet your heroes kind of a thing. Because working in the car industry is a great way to develop lack of passion for the car industry. Working as a coach, for example, can reduce your passion for the sport just because of all the other ancillary BS. We all have this dream that I'm going to go to Lincoln Tech, or I'm going to go to UTI, or I'm going to get this, and I'm going to put my time in at a dealership, and then in 5-6 years, maybe I'll just go work at a custom car shop. And you might. Or you might just be doing oil changes and the occasional decently large project at a Kia dealership. It's the nature of it. The world needs both. Anthony goes, shifting mindset. Chad free, huh? Oh, talking to the gentleman over on YouTube. And we got a thumbs up, so there you go. Andrew over on Facebook. Never thought I'd work at Amazon after working in radio for 14 years. Life is weird, man. Like I said, I never thought I'd work in the golf industry as long as I did. And when I was working in that, I never thought I'd be doing anything else. And yet here we are. I mean, that said, I might, in the next few years, I might end up back in golf just because I kind of miss it, weirdly enough. But at any rate, let's see here. Anthony, Chad, I did move away from that and went to working for myself. There's also something to be said for working for yourself. But also that's another thing. Is a great way to kill your passion for something is to start a business in it. I've seen individuals have a passion for something, start a business, and then the business side of it kills it. But if you're working for yourself and you enjoy it, good on you. Keep at it. Doug over on Facebook. Fun fact, it depends on the state, but dealers generally mark up the approved interest rate of a loan. Also, banks will do it too. But the way to go is to find out what your bank will approve you at and then ask the dealer to match or beat it. They might still make money, but they might save you money too, which would be a win-win. My experience, and it's not nearly as extensive as yours, Doug, in selling cars but I guess this is kind of goes for any major purchase to shop around. I was fortunate in the fact that I am a part of a credit union that has some of the best. If you're a member, you are automatically pretty much entitled to really good interest rates compared to the market. That said, I did go to my bank. I did see what the dealership had to offer as far as it, because you never know. It's better to have, it's why you get, when I worked at the golf course, why we would get multiple bids for new stairs or whatever. You never know. Your buddy is giving you at a great deal, but guess what? This other guy down here might be hungry and might see a bigger picture of, hey, if I do something that hundreds of thousands of people are going to see every day, might be worth it to take the loss on that build for future business. All that other sort of stuff. You're from New Jersey. You're a natural born skeptic. Pretty much. I always assume the worst until I'm proved otherwise. And Andrew, I did see your comment earlier about Teslas and them having issues in the cold. It's almost like battery stuff doesn't like cold. Who knew? Oh, anyone with a cell phone. Let's see here. Steve goes, I replaced a lot of CVTs for a Nissan dealership. Then you should be intimately knowledgeable with them, and I get why you hate them. Sean goes, I'm trying to picture you golfing. You have that resting face where you could probably stare the ball into the hole. I guess I'm intimidating. I'll take it. That's a win. Yeah, I used to play a shit ton of golf. Probably 4 to 5 times a day. The best I ever was literally a .03 or scratch golfer, meaning I was. Anywho, it's going to sound like necessary breathing. Happy Bean over on TikTok. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back and watching. Appreciate you watching the stream. But yeah, I mean, let me put it to you this way. I did. This predates Shifting Lanes, but I did U.S. Open quals and so there's, this is going to stretch my memory on it because I've basically turned my whole entire brain off to golf for the last basically year. But basically you have regional and sectional qualifying. Your regional qualifying is kind of that first stage if you're in the top 10 or so, or it might be top 30. Anyway, if you're in the top number, you move on to sectional qualifying. And then from there, the top, I think it's a very small number of people because I think you only end up with like 50 or 60 or so qualifiers. So basically, the sectionals, I forget exactly how many of them are, but basically if you're in the top 2 or 3, you qualify for the Open. I got to the sectional stage, but was nowhere near the top 3. Because it's crazy. If you think the gap between the average good golfer that you see on a golf course and the pros that you see on TV is small, you're wrong. Because the golfers who are struggling to make it into the tournaments are magnitudes better than that really good club golfer or the best club golfer. But it was an experience. And that was actually something I was working towards in 2019. I was playing a lot of golf, working on my game, working out, all that other sort of stuff to get in better shape. I was going to make another run at it, and then COVID happened, and then I lost my passion for it, and now I'm a fat ass. So here we are. Let's see here. I have intense eyebrows. Yeah, I mean, I'm a competitive person, so while I enjoy things like golf, video games, and stuff for the fun of it, I also want to win. Or I also want to play at my ability level. Or I don't want to make dumb mistakes. I hate it when I make mental mistakes. Things like that. I'm very in that sort of a mindset of you're getting my best. And I know I'm not going to go out there and get better every single day as far as a score, let's say, for golf is concerned. But I'm going to do my absolute best, learn from it, and move forward. And I'm that way with a lot of things in life. I cannot turn. I've always been an extremely hyper competitive individual. It's just my nature. It's who I am, and it's probably why I'm where I am. Let's see here. Doug goes, even credit unions might vary on rates. One might be better than another. So, yes, shop around. That's exactly my point. I mean, granted, I ended up going with them, but it wasn't like I'm only going with them, if that makes any sense. Let's see here. Michael Newton. If this gets 3 likes, Chad has to grow his beard. I have to grow it. This is actually long for me. It gets... So, yeah, anyone know you have a calic, like right in your hair? Basically the alfalfa, right? If your hair just wants to go in one direction, that's not the direction you want your hair to go. Calic. I have a calic on my beard. So this hair wants to go in this direction. So it kind of swoops under. The hair on this side goes down and then back. So if I grow my beard, it's just ugly. And, I mean, maybe. But I have a few weddings in this year that I know the individuals involved. But, I mean, shit, if I don't have to shave, I might be down for that. Let's see here. Mario again goes, I see Chad being the next John Daly, no disrespect. That is not, because if you know anything about golf, I mean, John Daly's a very entertaining individual if you subtract some of the times when alcohol got involved in his life. But he was... So there's always there's an interesting story that John Daly always tells. And it's 2 different types of people in this world, and you look at how you look at that kind of success. John Daly, Tiger Woods, both incredibly naturally gifted golfers. But they're playing at the same tournament, and tournament ends, John Daly and his buddies are sitting at the bar. Tiger walks by. Hey, Tiger, come join us for a drink. Tiger's like, nah, man, I'm going to the gym. Or I'm going to hit balls. Walks back. Hey, Tiger, come join us. Nah, now I'm going to the gym. Walks back. Hey, Tiger, why don't you finally join us for a drink? It's like, I'm gonna go work on something else, right? Like Tiger's over here, humongous natural ability, arguably top 2-3 golfer of all time, if not the best of all time. Wherever you sit on that debate, I personally think it's Jack, and then just underneath him is Tiger. But this isn't a golf stream, so I'll move on. The point of the story is John Daly won 2, maybe 3 major championships, which makes him in a very small number of human beings. And he did it on natural talent. I mean, he had to work at certain things because you can't be a professional and rely solely on that. But on the other hand, now you have Tiger. So let's say they both were born with the same natural talent. Tiger outworked him, and he's got, 14 majors? It's one of those things. So even if you see someone as the best of what they did, they're always working to be better. That goes back to the quote I said before. Be better today than you were tomorrow. Or be better today than you were yesterday. Not the opposite way. That's not a great way to look at things. Steve goes, if this gets 5 likes, Chad has to grow a mullet with that beard. That, Steve, I can guarantee you isn't happening because the length of time it would take me to grow a mullet puts me right smack in a wedding where I know the bride would not want me to have a mullet. I get it, sort of the enemy of fun, but yeah, I can't. Short version of that story is I'm in the wedding in some capacity, and yeah. Let's see here. Are we? Huh, that's super weird. Let's see here. Beard oil and wax from Sean. Yes, I do use that just because my face I get dry skin. Sean, again, I did golf for a couple years, but bowling I was much better at. Golf is the easiest dumb game in the world. It's pretty easy to learn how to hit a golf ball consistently. And I just mean literally the act of hitting it. The act of making a golf ball where you want it is a lifetime pursuit, usually futile. But that's also... reason I got into golf was because I was always, doing something athletic. I played football, basketball, and baseball early on. I played basketball for 2 years in high school. I played football, and I ended up basically playing college baseball. And long story short, I hurt my shoulder. Tried to come back, hurt it worse the second time, and that was it. But like I said before, I'm a very competitive person, so I needed something. So I was playing in, men's league baseball and all that other sort of stuff. Then I found golf. And guess what you don't need to compete in golf? Other people. So I could go and play by myself, have a target, and compete against that target. And that's how I got hooked. Doug, thank you so much for the 100 stars. Mullet, yeah. Maybe a baby one, but again, like I said, I can't afford to have, the mullet tan or anything for this wedding. It's sadly something, not sadly, I'm very happy for these individuals and they're great people, and want to be at my best for them. It's also why, hopefully in the next day or so, I'm back at the gym because, yeah, I'm a fat ass. Christian goes, I popped in to say hello and good night, gents. Christian, if you're still here, thank you so much. Even if you're not, thank you so much. Mike goes, you got to train it. Test your products, find out what works best for your beard and skin. Nah, 100% I get it. This is as long as I usually like my beards. A little longer usually in the winter. It's just easier. I know buddies of mine who grow the super long beard, and there's a reason why you see me wear a hat every week on stream. It's not because my hair is crazy long. It's just I don't feel like doing my hair. It's the type of person you're dealing with here. Let's see here. Chad does a mullet and a beard. He's going to look like a bit like Tom Hanks from Castaway. Appreciate it. Yeah, the best time for me to have grown a mullet would have been during COVID when I wasn't getting a haircut and my hair was crazy long. Crazy long. That stuff. See, because you'd be the raddest one at the wedding, though. Yeah, I'd rather... I don't know how many weddings you've been to or in or what have you, but I would rather not earn the ire of the bride. Yeah. I like not being punched in the kidneys. Let's see here. Anthony goes, I'm going to let mine keep growing. Hey, I'd say this all the time. Whether it be cars, whether it be this, whether it be that. You guys do you. You're not good people because you have a perfectly kept beard or, the best of this or the best of that. You're just good people. That's the end of it. So you guys do you. As long as you stay good people, that's all that matters. Let's see here. Sean goes, bowling has some fun science behind it, like pool imparting spin on the ball, allow some kind of wild shots. Oh, don't get me wrong. I was into bowling. We used to be in a league years ago. But much like the softball team I was a part of, I was an excuse to drink. But no, I thoroughly enjoy bowling. If you like bowling a lot, there's a really cool video on Veritasium's page that goes into the like the science behind the bowling ball, the science of wax patterns, all that sort of stuff. It's actually a really, really interesting video, and Veritasium is actually a very good. Is a very good. What's the word? Science communicators, I think, what they call themselves. So, stupid dog. Doug goes, I used to teach blind people how to use computers. So I wore Hawaiian shirts since none of my clients cared. See, here's the bottom line. I think certain industries, if you can own it, dress however you want. I always told my boss at Enterprise, because it was very conservative. Blue, black, tan, or gray suit. Solid or approved pinstriping only. You got to remember, Jack Taylor, the founder of Enterprise, was a Navy man, and he ran his company that's a similar way. Enterprise comes from the USS Enterprise, in case anybody was wondering. So those were the suits we could wear. We had to wear, there was a certain thing with ties, very conservative, and we could wear white. We could only wear white Monday through Friday, and Monday through Thursday, and Oxford blue on Fridays and Saturdays. That was it. I always maintain that if we wore fun, now it didn't have to be ridiculous, but if we professional but had say a fun Hawaiian print or something that made us memorable and not just a drone, would be something that would aid business and things of that nature. But I often got like couldn't have a beard, couldn't have stubble, even couldn't got yelled at for having stubble even after coming back from the doctor with a doctor's note saying, my skin is highly sensitive, and after, removing several layers or several of the top layers, shaving, I was told by a doctor not to shave as frequently, basically daily. Yeah, guy, you can't have that. Here's your doctor's note. Shut up. So Chad, Twinkie is barking with your dog and Jessica is encouraging it. Yeah, the thing is a pain in the ass tonight. Which is probably, he has kind of calmed down, but oh my goodness, I dislike that. He's it's a pain in my ass, chat. By the way, to Sean's point, there's the link to that video I mentioned. But yeah, I did used to. I still thoroughly enjoy bowling and things like that. It's pretty fun. I remember this to go back to it. Kind of goes over on Chat Free over on YouTube. My freshman year in college, we went on spring training and basically we had played games on our way down south. And one of the games I forget the name of the college, but we were in the middle, and I know there's a lot of it, but we were in the middle of, I couldn't even begin to tell you nowhere in West Virginia. This town had a hotel and a bowling alley and like a general store, and that was about it. So we went to the bowling alley, and being college jocks, it was BYL, so we brought all our own beer, and we had the bright idea to build a pyramid, and that pyramid got to about 8 feet tall. When the kid on our team, Chuck, I think his name was. Anywho, guys were on the team for one reason alone, and that was, let's just say, for his advanced tutoring ability. And he was also he was a lot more well-behaved than we were. Coming in and being like, oh, guys, come on, we got a game tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. I forget who we were playing. It was the junior... If you remember Steve Francis, the old guard who played at Maryland back in the day, it was the junior college that he played at. They were like nationally ranked at the time and everything. So it was a big game for us. Like they were top 10 in the country or something at that point for junior colleges. And I'll never forget it. We were like, forget it. We're having a good time. And plus the game was a night game or whatever. I just remember we won that game pretty easily. And after we won the game, the guys on our team started singing In the Club by 50 Cent on home plate. Not my finest hour. Let's see here. Chad Free over on YouTube. Collegiate baseball is cool. Baseball not only teaches the game, but it also teaches life lessons, and you learn how to adjust to any situation. I mean, baseball, more than a lot of other sports, dives. Obviously, there's the athletic, the strength, the speed, the eye-to-hand coordination, all that other stuff that are prerequisites for being successful at baseball. But it also, on an individual basis, you have to be thinking constantly. And I'm not sitting here saying that like a linebacker or a quarterback or whoever has to think or isn't thinking when they're playing football, or similar stuff with like basketball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, you have to register tendencies. Like in the middle of an at-bat, Count may sit here and tell you that he should be throwing something off speed out of his zone, but he might throw you a fastball. So there's some people who sit there and are looking for certain signs. I was pretty good at, number one, my skill set was I had fast hands. I was also had good fast foot speed wise, but I had fast hands, so I could react to pitches better. But I also had uh, incredibly good vision to where when the throw came through the zone, generally speaking, I could catch that moment of when the pitch comes in and you see in the side of the hand. I could usually pick up breaking ball, or usually if you saw pinky up or something to that effect, change up, that sort of stuff. Now, I think at my best, at the highest level of competition I ever played in, which would probably be the Carolina Wood Bat League, I batted like 380, but so like good, but not great. There were guys in that league hitting 400. But yeah, it's a game where you have to think, and I think that's also part of the reason why why people see it as boring, and I can get it, is because you have to sit here and when I watch a game, I see a pitcher. It's like, no, this guy's set up for this pitch. Well, why the hell did you throw that? Number one, you're better than I was. Number two, your stuff is filthy, and all that other sort of stuff. But this constant strategic. There's where to be, where to this. The players have to be. It's a game of thought, and like I said, I think that personally, I thrived on that sort of stuff. I was also a jackass who constantly talked, so I would literally talk to the catcher during at bats. And if I had knew them or had played against them before, and I knew they were chill or something like that, give them a little tap on the shin guards before my at bat and be like, "Hey, he better not throw this pitch." Not saying that pitch was going to result in anything good for me, but it was just another part of the psychological game that I loved about every sport. This is kind of the shit talking. Sean goes, Sam Black Church, West Virginia. It sounds like that place. I have no idea. It was 21-ish, 21 years ago. All I remember is that their field had a hill in center field, kind of like how old Minute Maid Park used to have that hill in center field. Only it wasn't a feature of the stadium. It was just where they put snow. And snow had kind of filtered through the fence there, and there was a snow hill. Because, again, remember, our spring training is like January, February. And that's why we would traditionally go down south. We went to Florida one year. We went to Louisiana another year. I spent, and like the first few months, especially for up north teams, first few months of the some quote unquote spring semester, we would be down taking classes at other college. So I was in Tulane. I would be at Tulane taking classes for the college up here in New Jersey. Bocce is another bowling-like game that's really fun, especially on questionable terrain. I love bocce, and we would, back in the day, we would play, like, I remember we would play bocce, and at least once at one of my friends' like brother-in-law's places, and we were all hyper competitive. That's where Full Contact Can Jam came from. But where he would literally take the Polina and throw it over the house. Now, you weren't throwing the bocce balls over the house, but you had like 2 shots to get close or something like that. Like, we would just sort of, like, hyper competitive. Let's see here. Doug goes, I'm not a follower of any sports ball of any sort, but I do find going to live baseball game to be a very rewarding experience. Just having met you, Doug, and talking to you and kind of your personality, your innate personality, baseball is a game that I think you'd enjoy if you learned some of the minutia. That said, it still takes, it's hard to dedicate 2.5 hours to anything these days, let alone. Going to base, I think the way you would get hooked is learning how to keep score. So just tracking, in the book, keeping the book, as it were, is keeping score. Like, I don't know, in my head, I see you as a very analytical type person, and I think your new nickname might be the Watchmaker. I haven't decided yet, but I just see you really getting in and like loving the details of stuff and the inner workings and things like that. Chaffrey goes 380. That's a hot bat. Like I said, I had fast hands, so I could wait on a lot of pitches, and I thrived on velocity. And that was right around the time where people were starting to become, where pitching was starting to become more throwing than pitching. And the short version, the best way to describe that is look like pitchers back in the 90s and early 2000s, like Greg Maddux, who was just artists with the ball, made the ball do whatever he wanted, but he could take the, basically one of those type of people where he could use a baseball or throw a baseball and take the wings off a butterfly at 100 feet. Like pinpoint accuracy. Right? To where it started to transition to, well, if you get a high spin rate and you're throwing hard, it doesn't really matter if you miss your target by 6 inches. That's a hard pitch to hit consistently. And it was right around that transition of that time frame. So a lot of people were trying to throw hard. It became the three pitch pitcher, fastball, slider, changeup. I'm not saying anything was easy because, there were guys in that league who batted 200, right at the Mendoza line. But like I said, I thrived at the situationally understanding the situation, and I don't know. And then I had a skiing accident. And my shoulder only does this now. I'm another one of those stories. Could have been somebody. Now I'm here, and it's fun. I thoroughly enjoy it where I'm at. Not for nothing, I'm 40, so even if I did play baseball beyond college, I'd be done. So, Sean, Doug goes, I do have books on watchmaking. I love lots of books. Yeah, you should build a library, my dude. We're gonna same Doug. Sean, my brother and I are used to turn bocce into a drinking game. Suffice to say, we spent some laying in the bush somewhere. I mean, here's the funny thing. There's a bar. It's relatively close to me. It's definitely a bar I could go to, and if I had a couple, not worry about the drive home. And only a couple, at any rate. That had bocce courts in the back. And it was basically, I forget, I don't know exactly how they did it, but they would, every 2 months or so, it was on turf. But it wasn't, like the turf wasn't on like concrete. They had some way of, it was like heavy turf that they put on sand. And the sand, as people walked and moved around, would start to get kind of pushed off to the side, so that the track, develop a personality, and the ball would sort of roll, not necessarily straight. I always had that place, and it was on this outdoor back patio thing, kind of, sort of in the woods, but not like yeehaw in the woods. It's a really cool vibe. They would have they had a couple fire pits out there. It's actually a really cool bar. It's just, we don't, I haven't been there in a minute. Mostly because it's, like I said, it's a bit of a drive. It's probably like 45 minutes from me. So it's not awful, but it's not like convenient either. Let's see here. Steve Veldkamp. Is that how you pronounce your last name? Or Veldkamp? Or Veldkamp? You must, the chance is your fatherland. Thanks for watching, man. Appreciate you as always, buddy. Get some rest, and we'll catch you on the next one. Let's see here. Doug goes, books I'm rather proud that I own. First edition Fountainhead, first U.S. edition Watership Down, first edition The Lost Cause. Not a good book, but a historic one. The first book to use the word aquarium. That's interesting. First Sunday school book for a Methodist church. And then a ton of tech books. Sorry, too much wine. I pretend someone might get excited. Nah, dude, we are all into something. We're off and on all into different stuff. I went on a little bit of a baseball tangent. I could have gone way deeper into that tangent. And what I hate about the current game. But, obviously you guys tune in for the car talk, which most of this show has been about cars. So, but at any rate, it is you're into what you're into, and that's all right. You know, if you are into cool books about that have absolutely nothing to do with sports, is let me see if I can find a link to it, but. Let's see here. I have a good service manual library too. I mean, honestly, Doug, that's another thing. I could honestly see you, like being one of those, and it's often something that I've always thought I've kind of thought about, and so I guess what I'm saying is to not. It's not derogatory, but I've always seen you as kind of the type of person who might collect like old tech manuals, like for a tractor or just stuff from old cars or things like that. But one of the books I would absolutely, and this goes to anyone that is just into a really killer story, especially if you live in New Jersey. Steve goes, it's Dutch, but I'm not Dutch. Enjoy your orange. Anyway, back to, I'm not a big reader, but one of the books I will always recommend to people is Shadow Divers by Robert Kurson. It's an awesome story. So the general premise of it is these guys from New Jersey. I forget where their boat's out of, but they're down basically down the shore, that south-ish Jersey, south central Jersey. And they're divers. They're part of the dive team that found the bell for the Andrea Doria, but it's they're not what you see on TV, where they're these polished, wealthy, well-groomed outfit. They equate it in the book to being like a biker gang that goes and dives on these wrecks. And they basically find this mysterious ship that they had no idea was there, wasn't registered, turns out to be a U-boat. And we're not talking far. They're just off the coast of New Jersey, maybe couple hundred miles, somewhere in that neighborhood. And they spend this whole time trying to identify this U-boat, and that it does a really good job of going into the history of the U-boat war, about how oftentimes U-boats would pull up. They were so close to the coast, the Atlantic coast of America, that they could see cars' headlights. They were picking up American radio stations. It's a fascinating read. And like I said, I'm not a big reader, but it is a great, great, great story. And Doug, if you have it, I suggest it be your next read, because it's my all-time favorite book. Sorry about that. Chat Free over on YouTube goes, World War II history, sign me up. Yeah, I really, really like that. I mentioned them before. Actually, I don't think I posted this link. Let me just get to Sean real quick. Oh, oops, that's not right. Sorry. All right, Sean, there's the bowling video I mentioned before. If Chad Free, if you like, I mentioned them before, but if you like history, he does a lot of World War II history, but he also does a lot of good history stories, and he's a phenomenal storyteller. The Fat Electrician over on YouTube, definitely go check him out. His stuff is awesome. Let's see here. Ready. Okay. Huh. All right. Let's see if I missed anyone. All right. I actually think that's a good natural spot to call it, guys. We actually were on probably 45 minutes longer than I thought I'd last. So that's a credit to you guys for keeping the conversation fun, fresh, all that sort of stuff. I definitely I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the conversation. Hopefully we'll have Greg back next week for a regularly scheduled tomfoolery. I also want to get his take on the zombie vehicle because he usually thinks of a world slightly different than I do, for better or worse. At any rate, and then first Wednesday, I believe. Let me check the dates here. Wednesday, February the 7th, we're going to have Elliot back on the show. So if you enjoyed our show with Elliot Alvis a few weeks ago, he will be back joining us on the 7th to talk all manner of things cars. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about next week. So, Shuggers didn't get too unhinged this time. Well, there's goals for next week. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, whether it was on Facebook, YouTube, over on TikTok, which hopefully went relatively successfully. Thanks again, guys, and